pay what you thought you were getting.
Well, good evening. Welcome to Hull and Back podcast and Tiger Talk here on Humber Wave Radio. Thanks to Adam B for the usual suspect show. He's back on Saturday between 6 and 8. All your local bands, that's all he concentrates on. So if you are a local band and you want to get on the radio, just email usualsuspects@humberwave.com. Anyway, I'm Eddie Wright.
I'm Joe Collins.
I'm Paul Wright.
And I'm Chris Sorensen.
And me and you, Chris, have got the same top on tonight. Look at that.
I know.
Are these on sale cheap?
No, they're definitely not cheap. These was definitely expensive, these ones, Paul. You would not have paid for it.
I wouldn't have done, no. You could have got one for my birthday.
I wouldn't have paid for that.
That's nice, isn't it?
Nice, isn't it? Nice to know. And I think me and Christian are obviously going to get on tonight. That's what it's all about tonight. Me and Christian are getting on because we've got the same tops on. And good to have you back. Good to be live again this week. I like it when we're live better than these pre-records. Sorry that the pre-record from last week went out a little bit late. There was a couple of little technical thingamajigs and it went up there eventually. And we've had a few views on it, which is always good to see. Joe, you let us down last week.
Yeah, would you like some information on the under-21s game I was attending instead?
That's what he was doing, people, apparently. He said that he couldn't be bothered to come in. That's what he told me. And then he goes to an under-21s game. So go on then, give us some information, Joe.
Funny one. It was a good win against Crewe. I've missed watching the 21s this year with them being in York or whatever. It's a right pain in the backside. And the players, I can't imagine it's fun for them travelling all that way and then coming out at 4 o'clock in the York traffic. I can imagine that they'd much rather play somewhere closer to home. But, it was a good win for them. Hugh Parker, the striker we signed from the Republic of Ireland in January. It's nice to see a bit of what he's like. And there was a bit of a weird thing where we wore the third kit, even though we were the home team, still wore like the bits of kit that clashed with what Crewe were wearing, though, i.e. the darker shorts. Ours were black. We wore home shorts with the third, and Crewe wore their away kit, which is navy blue. So I have no idea what was going on there. But we could have just worn the third shorts with the home shirt, if you get what I'm trying to say, because there was still a kit clash with what they did, but it clearly didn't make a difference because they won. So we'll have it, and that's the last time I'll get to watch the 21s until pre-season.
Been doing well this season of the 21s. Harry Vaughan got a couple of goals as well. I think it was last game, wasn't it, that he played in, so he's doing well, and it got him a call up onto the bench for the weekend's game. He didn't actually get off the bench and get on the pitch, but, you know, he's probably one that's been, for me, a little bit underused this season when we're trying different things on the left. I think we've already talked about it quite a bit, but, you know, nice to see him get on the bench, and, you know, it'd be nice to see him get a game, I think, getting towards the end of the season.
Nathan Tinsdale on the bench too. Someone who didn't play for the 21s because he was the designated survivor, the spare man against Oxford the very next day for the first team. And the 21s they're a good team this year. The year that no one gets to watch them. Typical, isn't it? And the 18s have had a bit of a tough run of form, but they're a decent side this year as well. One of the 18s who was playing in the game, actually, Harry Revel, the 18s captain, but was playing at centre-back for the 21s. You know where the stand is at Ferriby? It's on the side of the pitch, isn't it? The one stand with the seats in it. The ball was coming down that side in the second half, and Harry Revel, he was moving at pace towards the ball to meet a man. And I thought, oh my God, he's going to pelt this straight at us. And there was one in the first half where Crewe's goalkeeper nearly took a woman's head off in the block next to us. So me and my mate Josh were immediately like ducking behind our seats for cover. And in the end, I think Harry Revell saw us sat there, realised he wasn't going to be able to clear the stand with the distance he had. So slid instead and put the ball out of play. So I was very thankful to him when I saw him after the game. And someone else who I won't name, but it was a good laugh, said, Harry, I'd have hit it as hard as I possibly could.
Nice, is it?
Not very nice at all, but, true fair, it's done it sometimes. But good to see you get into a under-21s game, and it's good to get updates on how they're doing because, ultimately, really, some of them people should be the future of the club, and it's nice to see if the future of the club's going to come through and be able to cut it at first team level. We seem to be letting people come through a bit later these days because when you look at teams like even like Manchester United are playing 18-year-olds in their team and things like that. We don't very often drop down to that age in Hull City's team. Is it because they're not as good, or is it that thing of like nerves from the management of not wanting to do it?
Personally, I was going to say, a lot of the time, these kind of younger players, the younger generation of players which are coming through, they're generally normally seen in the cup games.
Yeah.
And
we
and unfortunately, being Hull City, we kind of never get past a certain round. And that's kind of
the first one we enter.
Exactly.
Every single year.
And that's the thing. So a lot of the younger players that we could have, when you're trying to kind of circulate and regulate the type of players which are coming in and out, especially over in the cup games and kind of the season, your first team kind of starting 11, that kind of cup game against, I don't want to insult other teams, but the lower league teams, that's generally your break for your first 11. And that's when you actually start bringing in the top end under 21s or that kind of shining star that could be potentially coming through. And that's where you kind of
your fringe players as well, right?
And your fringe players. Yeah, of course.
The issue we've had at the start of this season in the Carabao Cup was we didn't have any fringe players because we didn't sign anybody. So he couldn't throw them in.
Do you think though, I'll put this to Paul, do you think though, maybe the way the club's been operating in signing a lot of players has maybe not given these youngsters as much of a chance?
Well, that sounds pretty obvious, doesn't it? I mean, to be fair, you've got to give them a chance realistically. I mean, I don't see the problem in bringing one or two through each sort of season, giving them a taste of it. I mean, if You've got to sort of toss them in at some time, haven't you? Because otherwise they never get the experience, do they? And I know the Championship's a hard league, and obviously at the moment we're 50-50 whether we're going to stay in and all that. But you've got to give the youngsters a chance because, as you said earlier on, it is the future of Hull City, hopefully. Because spending money on other people on decent wages, and you can bring somebody through, and it has worked with, Jacob Greaves and others, where we've had people coming through, we've got money off, out of them. And I know they go away sometimes on, to the lower leagues, which is always handy, but to have an under-21s and not be bringing many through isn't very good, I don't think, for the future, because you're relying on players coming from other clubs, and you've got people already here on the wages. You can just up the wages, I suppose, if they're playing for the first team rather than the under-21s regularly or getting in the squad. But you've got to do something. It's pointless having an under-21s and ignoring him, in my eyes.
Do you think, can I just ask another question here, Joe? There's a couple of things that I want to put here. One of the things is that I know they spend a lot of money on the academy because, they put the players in houses. It's not cheap to keep a player in the academy. But the other thing I want to I'll ask you this, Joe, because you watch it a lot of the time. Is the way that the players aren't coming through at the moment maybe then hampering the players that are on the fringes to push that bit further? Is that,
initial question, the fact we sign so many players. So let's take it to the summer. Because we made no signings, you had Owen Foster, Tyrell Sellers-Fleming, Harry Vaughan, Stan Ashby, Nathan Tinsdale. Who else was up there? I think that's that.
I think
anyway,
even Rocco Coyle came through as well, didn't
Rocco
they?
Coyle. Yeah, Rocco Coyle up there with the first team every single day because they need bodies.
Yeah.
And then, because as a result of that, second-year scholars in the 18s come up to the 21s. Stan Hewitt played a lot for the 21s in pre-season. Lucas Dawson, Ed Devine, Aidan Sheehu. They've spent a lot of time with the 21s throughout this year. But then when you invest heavily in the first team late, as we did in the summer, all of a sudden there's a backflow. And the players that had broken through and spent a lot of time with the first team are getting sucked back to the 21s because they need minutes and they are still technically under 21 players, so they are eligible. Harry Vaughan spoke in a press conference he was put forward for about how Tim Walter didn't fancy him, and his options were go out on loan or stick in the 21s. And he decided, he didn't say this, let's be absolutely clear, and he's not said this off the record either. I think Harry Vaughan knew that Tim Walter wouldn't last very long when he was making that decision. Because I don't think as a footballer, if you believe in yourself, obviously he wants to make it work here. But I think had it been a different manager, had it still been Liam Rosenior who was letting him go out on loan again, I think he'd have opted for that more. But because it was Tim, he believed in himself that he was better than some of the players that we had already. The injuries in that position have played into his hands. And he just thought, you know what, I'm going to wait it out. And it worked to an extent. But
come back to one of your points there, Joe. You said about the players then, you're going backwards because you've come up to the first team, you're dropping back down to the 21s, or you're dropping back down to the 18s. How do they feel at that?
I think let's use the Harry Vaughan example again. He just wanted to, because he knew, and this is on the record, he said he knew very early in pre-season that Tim Walter didn't fancy him. So he spent the latter half of pre-season with the 21s a lot as well. So he was prepared for it, and he made that sort of conscious choice to stay in the 21s. And he said it was the best decision he ever made because from when he signed for us, he didn't have that much time in the 21s before Liam Rosenior chucked him straight in and got him training with the first team a lot. So he said it was nice to just play with, although he didn't play with them much, familiar people in a familiar environment. And he got enjoying his football again after he had a season last season where he had a difficult loan spell and wasn't really playing much for us for the first half of it. He said it was nice to get playing football again. And Ed Devine, as an example, he's spent a lot of time with the 21s, but he's had an injury and he's working his way back up to match fitness, playing under 18s games. And it's a level he's comfortable with. So it's a nice way for him to build himself back up. And I think the thing is these players, they know that if they're still a scholar, they can play for the 18s, whether they've been in the 21s all season or not. So they are prepared for if they need to take the drop back down again, and they all sort of relish it. And like if they've had an injury like Ed Devine has, left back, and you get to build your fitness back up with the 18s, you're playing with your mates again. In a lot of the cases. So they'd sort of like relish it as a chance to get themselves back fit and playing football again in an environment they're comfortable in.
If you want to get in touch with us, you can do tonight. You can get in touch on WhatsApp 01482 772 663. That comes through to the radio station. Or if you're watching on YouTube or on Twitter or on Facebook, then you can comment on there. And I was going to mention that in a minute. Well, so we'll talk about that. But no, basically, if you want to get in touch and you know anything about the under 21s or the under 18s, then let us know, and you tell us what your thoughts are on them coming through and what the future holds for the 18s and the 21s for Hull City. I was going to say Christian's looking a lot younger tonight. He's managed to get to the hairdressers, hasn't he? And he's
today.
Had a shave. He's got his hair cut. And as Marsh says, he's had his hat surgically removed.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, the wife came in. She went, right, enough is enough. She threw the cash at me. Honestly, God, she threw the cash at me, pushed me out the door. I had to get it fully done. So yeah, I've even had the hot towel. I've had it all blade.
Oh, look at you!
I've had it all today.
He's had a pamper. He's had a pamper.
Kind of getting that boy band, isn't he?
God's sake!
There you go, Marsh. Well done for spotting it, Marsh. I was going to mention it because I was just looking and thinking he looks younger this week. That lad.
Thanks for noticing. It's the little details. It's the little things, you know.
So
yeah, let us know anyway what you think about the 21s. If you want to get in touch with us, please do so.
Final thing, just on the 21s. I've seen a comment here from Marsh. If the 21s were good enough to step up, they would, and that is quite a good point. I think the example I use when I have this conversation is Stan Ashby. I think he is the best prospect we've got in the 21s at the moment. I know he is still technically an under 18, even though he signed a pro deal. But to me, he needs to be basing himself off what Jacob Greaves was doing when he was his age. Same position, so that should be his benchmark. In Jacob's first year as a professional, when he's from aged 18, turning 19 in that season, he got a League Two loan to Cheltenham. Stan, he's in a sense a step ahead because he had a little loan to Farsley over Christmas in the National League North. So he's got a bit more experience than Jacob had at that point. So he needs to be looking for, and the club need to be actively trying to get him a National League or a League Two loan for next season, in my view. And then the season after that, make the step up to League One, hopefully not with us like Jacob did, but in Stan's case, with any luck, if we're not in that division, it'll be another loan move. Equally, if we do go down, which I don't think is likely, I don't see a problem with chucking Stan Ashby straight in, but that's besides the point. So
gonna struggle though with
that.
He's got to now out Charlie Hughes, and the only way that I suppose he outs Charlie Hughes is if Charlie Hughes ends up getting a bid made for him in the transfer window in this summer, because I can see that happening, to be quite honest with you, for how well he's playing at the moment. I can see a transfer bid coming in for him, and we're going to struggle to hold on to that lad, because he's done. I saw some comments, and watching the games, the last couple of games with him in, he's got his fitness back, and you can tell he's doing really, really well.
And just
I don't think he's Premiership class, is he, at the moment? He's got to have at least another season or so in Championship. He's only had a handful of games realistically in the Championship, and he was with Wigan. He's been injured for us. He hasn't played that much. I would be very surprised if we lost him to another Championship club, and I'd be even more surprised if a Premiership club come in for him. I think if
you look at the two situations, so how I'm gauging this, I'm looking at Charlie Hughes. He's come from a League One club. I'm also looking at Carl Joseph. He's come from a League One club. Charlie Hughes has really hit the ground running. Carl Joseph, not so much. And I think, when you look at that step up, he's made it without even thinking about it. And if you can make that step up to Championship as well as you have, minus the injury, Paul, I get what you're saying about the injury. But if you can make that step up, then I think you could make the next step up as well.
Well, I don't think a Premiership club, unless it's one of the lower ones, maybe a Championship going into the Premiership may take a chance. But I don't think a Premiership club would jump in at him after half a season in the Championship. I know he's done well, I'm not saying he hasn't. He looks a good recruit and all that, but you've got to give him a bit more time than half a season in the Championship with a team that's been floundering near the bottom most of the season. I don't think anybody would jump in unless it's a Championship club going into the Premiership, which could happen then, I suppose. And I don't see why we would send him to another Championship club, to be honest.
We have said
no matter what they're coming with.
we have said in the past about this situation that even though we are lounging near the bottom, it's not through the defence.
It's
No,
not,
not through
and it's not through Ruben Sayers either.
No, it's not through Ruben Sayers. Sayers is doing well.
If you look at if the season started, when Ruben joined us, we'd be solid mid-table. So we are very much paying for what came before. And Ruben's, getting the best out of the squad that he was left for him in that sense. Just a couple of final things on the 21s. On Marsh's point about the level, the fact of the matter is most under 21s players won't make it, and that is just how it is. You look at
what's the percentage, Joe?
I don't know the percentage, but you look at someone like Alfie Taylor, who was, 2 years ago, he was on the fringes of the first team, getting on the bench under Liam Rosenior. He got a loan out to Ireland that was just utterly disastrous for him, and he's just gone out on loan to Cleethorpes Town for the rest of this season. And he's been out on loan at Grimsby Borough for most of this season. So with his contract coming up, you can't help but feel, this is no disrespect to Alfie, that his time at the football club might be coming to an end, and what once looked so promising just hasn't materialised into anything. The ones that are most likely to make the step up are the ones that have got longer left on their contract than a year at this point. So you've got Rocco Coyle in there, who's obviously Louis Coyle's brother, Stan Ashby. You've got Harry Vaughan and Tyrell Sellers-Fleming. I think they're the sort of the obvious ones. Zane Mize has had a bit of a look with the first team this year. He looks okay in the 21s. And this answers Scott's question. Are there any potential megastars in the under 21s? I think megastars is a push, but they're the ones most likely to make it. And then I think you look in the 18s. Ed Devine, I like at left back. He's a good player. And look at the situation we've had with left backs in the last few years. There's every chance he can get in there. Zach Jagielka, striker, Phil Jagielka's son. Ramel Carter gets a lot of headlines. He's a good player, but he's too inconsistent for me at the moment at 18s level. I think he could do the 21 step up, that's for sure, but I'm not sure about the first team yet. And then keep an eye out on Bobby Moore as well. That's not the England World Cup winning captain, although he does wear number 6 whenever he plays for the 18s. He made his 18s and 21s debuts last year when he was 15. He's just turned 16, and he's been with the 18s all season at centre-back, so keep an eye out for him in the future. But I think that brings our 21s discussion to a close, to be honest.
You're saying, when you're talking like that, we seem to be bringing a lot of defenders through, but not so many strikers through, which is, where the big money is, isn't it?
I suppose so, yeah.
Definitely.
So that probably does close it, because I've just tended on there we go. We are not bringing that many strikers through. So I'm sorry about that, everybody. I'm sorry for putting a downer on it, but ultimately we could do with some strikers. We saw on Saturday, I think, that we will lack a little bit when Zhao's suspended. Sorry, and that's come back to haunt us as that red card a little bit, unfortunately, Chris, hasn't it?
Slightly, yeah. We were speaking about this on Sunday with respect to kind of the players that we've got that can actually fill that role in. And one of the points I brought up was like, well, we do have the players, but most of them being pushed out wide to the wing. And it was hard to see who else could kind of fill in the gap in that middle alone because Zhao by himself holds that ball up, drops in, is always there. He's always creating something. And when he's not there, you're kind of looking around going, well, who's going to do that job? And I don't feel I'm not saying Crooks had a bad game or anything, but by the end of the first half, he was done in. He was completely done in. And for me, I don't want to go down the road, but I still feel that kind of up front situation and the four up front, let's call it. I don't think we started the game with the right four. And it kind of showed that with how kind of poor the first half was in our last game. I mean, West Brom are a brilliant team anyway, so I'm not going to put anything aside. That result of a 1-1 was brilliant.
Yeah, great result. Great result. Can't argue with it.
Not arguing with it, and it was the just result as well. I don't think any West Brom fan could turn around and say we deserved all three. And I mean, I can't say we deserved all three, but even though we had an opportunity to take all three,
we did.
Which unfortunately we didn't. But a just result, a draw, I'm happy with. But that first half, I have to go back to it and look at how we were set up. Because up top, I've usually backed the kid up, but Joseph on that wing was utterly useless. And I don't want to really... I usually stick up for him. And I would say his attributes is his pace and his strength with kind of getting onto the ball, running onto it, hanging onto it, and kind of forcing a pass. On that wing, all he did was kind of get the ball, didn't kind of pace around the fullback. He kind of tried to go at him and tried to just instantly cross it. And I don't think I saw one cross make it past his opposition. I think it either went out for a throw-in or a corner, or it come back and hit him, and it was a turnover. And it started me thinking, like, well, should he been the player there? Should we have started with
Harry Vaughan?
No, well, I would love it. I'd love it. Brazilian.
Lincoln.
No, Lincoln. Thank you.
Lincoln.
Should we have started with Lincoln and thought about maybe even having Bairstow in the middle? Because again, we still haven't seen Bairstow in the middle. I know some people say, "Oh, his touch isn't the best." Blah blah blah. He's had one or two semi-bad games, like every player has this season. Nobody in the starting Hull City team can say they've completed 100 passes and done 100 clean touches without losing the ball. No one can. So I'm not kind of looking back at that. And I just feel like Bairstow would have been kind of the choice to give an attempt to up top. So it's a shame in a way that he hasn't been given that opportunity, especially now Zhao's out with these red cards. I mean,
that's something that I was just going to say to you, though, Chris. We can't be too hard on him because he did get moved a little bit to the centre, but he didn't play in the centre much. And I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here because that's my job.
Christian, an idiot, loggerheads. Here we go.
No, we're not.
That's the one sticking out your head.
We're gonna be sorted here, and I'm just gonna say, I think the lad just needs a goal, something to bouncing off his backside or his knee or whatever, and he might start to come good because I'm sure he's only a young lad. He's got a young family. I'm sure that not scoring yet for Hull City after being in for as long as he has now, he's probably playing on his mind a little bit. What do you think, Paul?
Well, to be honest, I think he has been a little bit let down, to be fair. He come in probably as going to be our main striker, I would have thought, at the time. But Zhao's so good that he can't dislodge him. So he's getting a game on the wing. He isn't a winger. He does his best. He puts a shift in, but he isn't a winger. And I think, this is the problem we've had with a few players, to be quite honest, playing them getting him in the team, but playing them out of position. We had the same problem last year with Omar. I know he's gone now sort of thing, but he was out of position a lot. We never played him down the middle. Geldart, even when he came, he's not a winger, is he? He's a number 10, get him, near the box, around that area. We played him out on the wing. It seems to be a regular thing. We get players to fill in. I think, to be honest, not necessarily to get players to play in that position. You know, I couldn't understand why Camera didn't start on Saturday. To be quite honest, you know, you're putting two centre forwards on the wings, and you've got a winger there. It just doesn't seem logical to me.
All I could think about that was that is he carried a slight knock or something? Because when he came on, he changed the game, did Kamara?
Yeah.
Kamara and Palmer coming on together was...
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sorry, I can't remember if they came on together or not, but both of them as the substitutions were what changed the game.
Yeah, made a total difference to our game, and you know it was good to. It was a really good draw away against West Brom. I was going to say the only thing that sort of sours that a bit is that the teams around us also, apart from Stoke, I think it was, all got good results, and that sort of keeps us a little bit in the mix of it. We are out of it at the moment, but you know we're still close enough to it to sort of be a concern to all Hull City fans, I would think, at the moment.
One of the things that soured it a little bit for me was the bookings we got, because I thought there was 2 or 3 of them what we didn't deserve.
Yeah.
Listen, Charlie Hughes one, it was a bit of a 50-50. I know it should have been a free kick, but is it a booking? You know, he's a clever forward, his arms strong. He's had his arms on Charlie. He's had his arms around him, and he's given a booking. Regan Slater goes for a ball. Like Suds was slightly up, but it wasn't a nasty challenge. And he got booked. And I think, you know, Jones got booked for kicking the ball backwards when it was going to take a throw in with another ball. You know, it just seems as though the last 2 away games we've been dealt a bad hand by the referees, let's say. I don't argue with the Zhao sending off, to be honest. When you look at it in real time, it was that sort of challenge what he probably would get sent off for, even though he didn't make major contact. But I thought even in that game we had some bookings that we shouldn't be having. And I don't know if the referee's got a bit of a downer on us. I don't know. I can't believe it.
Do you think Ruben's been upsetting too many referees over a few years, and it's maybe preying on us a little bit? Because, as you say, we've had no rub of the green, even though we've done well in the last 5 games. You know, we're not on a bad run of form at the moment, but we haven't had any rub of the green.
Last chance we got, he got took out by centre half.
Yeah,
the build up. And I don't think he got booked. I'm pretty certain it was the same centre half who got booked earlier on in the game. So I think we're getting, you know, I'm not moaning because, you know, obviously we've got some points out of it, but the last 2 away games, I certainly don't think we've had the rub of the green where bookings are concerned. I don't know if there's a chance of any of them getting banned at all, because there's a few getting bookings. As I think
from what I've read, and I don't know if I'm right, but I've read that the time has now passed for the 10 bookings. The cut-off's gone for that. I don't know if I'm right, but I thought I'd read that
sounds about right.
I think the time has passed to get banned. I've not heard that anybody's banned, put it that way. I've not heard, because I think Charlie Hughes was his 10th booking on Saturday, and I've not heard that he's got banned from it. So I'm hoping that he hasn't, because, you know, that'd be 2 matches out for 10 bookings, wouldn't it? So we don't need any more of that, because obviously we lost Puerta on the West Brom game. Unjustly. He's back for the next game. Pedro's got still 1 more to serve, hasn't he? In that his last game against Luton Town. So we've got that 1 more to go. Luton Town we will talk about next week on the show, because that's a big game that the club are doing discount tickets again to try and get a full house and to try and get behind Ruben and the boys, and hoping for another home win, a hat-trick of home wins it'd be, which would be amazing, really.
Don't you tempt me with a good time, Eddie. I can tell you right now. But no, going back to Paul, I'll tell you now, I'll do the mourning for both of us, because the refereeing this season has been absolutely abysmal. Absolutely shocking. There's not
just remember we're on the radio, Christian.
Yeah. No,
get that bleep machine dusted out.
Get the bleep machine out now. We were speaking about this on we were speaking about this on Sunday with respect to the referees, and usually when I'm watching City, or to be fair, any kind of general game when you just kind of bang it on the box, you sat there thinking, all right, ref, I get you. Okay, you know, I don't always think that ref had a great game, but you know, sometimes you kind of finish it and think the ref called it fair. He let the game flow. It was actually more enjoyable. And you kind of think that in the back of your mind. But every game this season, and I'm not just referring to Hull, if I'm being totally honest. I think I'm referring to the league and the quality standard of refereeing in general this season. It's abysmal. It has been utterly abysmal throughout the full league. And I don't just want to say, oh, woe is City, because the last few games have been awful. A lot of the calls, like we say, the one for Puerta was just the cherry on the top for me. But I think this season it hasn't been. I haven't looked at a game and gone, yeah, he had a good game. I mean, seriously, nobody out of us four right now, could we turn around and think of a referee this season that gone, he's let the game flow right, he's called a fair game? I can't think of one.
Let me think about that. No, I can't.
No.
What I'm going to say to you is that, you know, I am horrible for referees, and when I'm in the stands, I really am. But, you know, I do understand. Look at me. Look at me, dad nodding.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, and I know they have a really hard job to do. This is how bad I think about them sometimes. I actually tried to find out if there's a way you can put a complaint into the FA about the standard of refereeing, because I think, you know, refereeing although it's a hard job, I think it needs to change. And I think it needs to change with the times.
Yeah.
And they need to be more accountable in the way that they deal with games. And they maybe need to be more like rugby Super League referees in the case that they're explaining why they've done something. You might not agree with why they've done it, but they explain why they've done it.
I said that exact thing on Sunday in the main show, Adi. I said, although I don't like egg chasing, we can take an awful lot from it in terms of how their VAR works. Because a comment's just come in here from Scott McLaughlin that VAR in the Championship at some point is inevitable. And I think it is only a matter of time. And the referees will need good and proper training to make the implementation of VAR smooth. Because look how bad it's been in the Premier League. And they're trying
to make these things better, aren't they? I mean, I watched the Carabao Cup game on Sunday, and you know that they're supposed to be doing this automated offside. It took them an age to make that decision about the offside, and you could see he was miles offside. Well, why does it take that long to get this to work? It's absolutely ridiculous that it took that long.
I said that word for word pretty much again on Sunday. You can see visibly he's onside. Yes, draw the lines on to be doubly sure, because we've had it in the Premier League where Luis Diaz was onside and they drew the lines wrong, so which in itself is inexcusable. So draw the lines on just to be sure. But I then don't see why it's so clear what the offside is, why the referee had to go, having done a thorough VAR check, this is on loudspeaker out in front of Wembley, having done a thorough VAR check, there was no foul in the build-up, and Liverpool's number 14 was onside, so it's a goal. It was never, ever a foul in the build-up. I do sort of get why they checked it, but they didn't need to. And in the Championship, if that's slow with Premier League refs operating it, imagine what it would be like with our referees doing it.
And this is the thing that needs to be, you know, it needs to be a lot better. I think that looking at rugby, the way Rugby League do it, I think they use Sky quite a lot, or the production company, let's say, instead of, you know, it all being Sky. Yeah, they use the production company quite a lot, and they ask them for the angles and stuff like that. And the production company are the one that control all of the replays and to show them what they need to see and things like that. I think our problem is that we have referees controlling this technology, and they aren't trained. Well, they might be trained for it, but you know, when you're an operator in a building and you do this for a living, you know, you can whop it back in seconds, do this, do that, draw the line on. It's all done in seconds. We know whatever job you do, you know, we'd all be good at whatever job we do, and would all be expected to be able to perform that job better than a referee.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I'm asking a referee to come out with me tomorrow and take a driving lesson and hope that he stops the pupil before they write me car off. Well, they're probably not going to do that, are they? And this is what we're asking referees to do. We're asking them to do a job that they're not really there to do.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose
Well,
they're meant to be able to do, but they're still not doing the job they need to do as well, are they? So let's be fair. Come on.
I think, to be fair, though, to this VAR, I think a lot of referees now use it to sort of get out of making the decision. You know, the linesman now doesn't have to put his flag up, does he? I mean, Man City a couple of seasons ago, I think they got 2 big injuries because they let the play go on, even though there was miles offside. He didn't flag.
Well, there was one on Sunday as well, wasn't they?
You know, it's sort of taking it out of the hands a little bit. Even with rugby, a little bit. I think the sort of, yeah, I think it's a try, but I'll go and ask him about if it's definitely a try. I think, you know, we've got to allow the referees to make decisions without always thinking. But the best referee we've had in the last 2 years was that lady, Rebecca. She was by far the best referee. She let the game flow. She wasn't flashing cards all the time. You know, it's a lot of them tend to do. You know, you get on Sky, he's given 10 red cards this season, 50 yellow cards.
I think the way that VAR should maybe operate in a different way is that the referee makes the decision. VAR look at that in a really quick way to see if the decision that he's made is right, and then say to the referee, you need to revisit this because it wasn't the right decision if he's got it wrong. But if he's got the decision right, then leave it there and carry on with the game.
Yeah. And I think what would help for fans in stadiums, especially who aren't watching it on TV, is having it on the big screens.
Yeah.
And I think rugby do it.
Yeah, they do. They do the replays on the big screen because when you watch them in rugby grounds, they know whether they know before that big try or that no try comes up on the screen what's going to happen because they've seen the replays and they know from what the replays are what's going to happen from that.
Well, and that's in a sense, and I'm going to bring this to Zhao's red card. The fact that this is an argument for VAR, my personal view is that in the Championship, because the referees would be so dreadful looking at and using the technology based on the way it's been implemented in the Premier League, I'd rather just take my chances and have a decision that doesn't go our way, whatever. But that's just my view. But the argument is VAR would have influenced, VAR being there would have helped or hindered us in 2 of the last 3 games. Bristol City, the ability to see it from different angles might have made the referee change his mind about whether to give Zhao a red card or not. Watching Gustavo Puerta go down back on a replay might have got that sending off turned around on the pitch. So I suppose there are pros and cons for it. But for me, the biggest con is how utterly dreadful the precedent set by the Premier League is, and what that would likely mean for us in the Championship. So I'm willing, like I say, just to take my chances. And Tim Walter said when he came in, we need VAR in this division. Shows what he knows.
I think one of the things is that, you know, talking about this and all the things that we've talked about tonight, one of the things that needs to happen is there needs to be some better training and better coaching for referees. I remember years ago when I was running the Hull City Official Supporters Club Cottingham branch, we had Terry Dolan down, and Terry Dolan was a referee assessor, and he was telling us how things were assessed and what happened after the game and how much the referees got talked to about their performance and what they'd done well and stuff like that. And it was interesting to hear, but I think something's gone awry with the way that referees are being coached and being given feedback, and whether it's because there's not enough of them or whatever, I don't really know. I don't think as well assistant referees are helping referees out enough. I think this is a big thing because, you know, when you look and you're an assistant referee, you can see on the Puerta situation, you can see that Puerta's had a little push there. You're close enough to the action and you should be able to help the referee out on that. And I think not doing that job well is probably half the problem with referees, is that they're maybe not getting enough support from their assistant referees. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think the linesmen, I think a lot, as I say, even the
Can't
offside, I
call
know
them
in the
linesmen, they're
Championship.
assistant referees.
All right, assistant referees. The assistant referees in
All
the
right.
Premiership, they don't give offsides even, though that's part of the job. But they very rarely give it. They wait and wait and wait, and then
No,
put
they do.
the flag up. In the Championship, it's a little bit different. But as you say, they can't be getting that much involved because if he's looking along at Puerta, you can see his leg come out, you can see a little shove, and you think, there's no way that's a sending off. He didn't dive or anything. He's got to have seen that from his angle. If he's up with play, that's another thing. Whether they're up with play, I don't know. But it certainly isn't a good standard. The refereeing or the assistant refereeing. That says it. If they're assistant referees, they should be helping him out all the time, shouldn't they? They're not there like a secondary person who's got no clout. Assistant referees means, I'm going to have a word with the referee. It's the same, like an assistant manager. He'll be having a word with the manager and saying, do you think maybe should just do this or should just do that? And obviously the manager makes the decision. But they can't be having that much control in the assistant referees because they never seem to overturn anything the referee does. If anything, it's the other way around. The referee says, no, it's the throwing's the other way or what have you. There should be three people of sort of equalish.
Yeah. Well, have we got some more comments on any of this that we've been talking about, Joe?
On the whole referee stuff, yes, indeed we do. Harry says Super League refs are a joy to watch. And I get that in a sense because they just have such control about them.
Yeah.
That football referees just don't seem to.
Well, I think that comes in a little bit to the Super League referees that, if anybody dares to sort of question them, then they'll end up in the sin bin or whatever. And, because different referees do different things in football and there's no actual, if you talk to me wrong, you're going to get this, which in Super League, if you talk to him wrong, he's just going to sin bin you. He's not going to mess about. He doesn't take it. Talk to me like that, you're in the sin bin, and it's simple like that. Whereas in football, we allow some certain players to control referees and to control games because there's no punishment for them. So I think that is one of the reasons that Super League is probably watching their referees is better than watching football referees.
It's the same with rugby union, isn't it? There's a lot of respect for the referee. He makes the decision. I mean, these fellas are 6 foot summit, weigh a few pounds, and they don't argue. They just walk away.
Yeah,
they were sort of they're not arguing with the referee. The footballers, as you say, there always seems to be one or two in the referee's ear here and there. As soon as Pedro makes that challenge, there was at least 2 Bristol City players running across to try and get him sent off. As I say, it looked a bad challenge. I'm not saying it didn't, but it's down to the referee, and they seem to want to influence the referee. Where at rugby, especially rugby union, I think as much as rugby league, he makes the decision, and basically it's unlucky. And they get on with the game, and they don't argue with them. Where at football, they seem to be do as they like where the referees are concerned. So whether that's extra pressure for them, the referees, I don't know, but that needs stopping as well.
Yeah, just sees an influence start a lot of the referees. Like anybody can see it. If the opposing team starts screaming at the ref's like, "Oh, I better call it for them, just for peace of mind." And it is like we say with kind of the rugby side of things, the referees do have like an aura about them, and it is something that when you kind of watch that game, that it's just going to keep going smoothly, regardless. The players know it. And this kind of chatting back, I swear, we're bringing in the blue card situation for something like this.
I remember this.
Yeah. And
that's never happened, has it?
That never happened, yeah. And the blue card was meant to actually prevent players from actually mouthing off at the ref and let the referee have a bit of control of the game. And they scrapped it instantly. And I mean, I think more than ever, I think somewhat like a blue card system might need to be put back into place just so referees can actually gain that bit of control over the players back, because I do feel players dictate referees.
Yeah, I do.
And just on the championship, about the linesman coming back, I think the referees in the championship dictate the linesman. offsides they give, which Premier League refs don't. They still take a while to put the flag up, but that's what they're told to do. Mm-hmm. But if you look at something like a foul or a throw-in, 9 times out of 10, the linesman will look to see how the referee's given it and then put his flag up that same way.
Yeah.
It's never the other way around in the Championship usually. It's always wait and see what the ref does. It could be right in front of me and I could have the power to make that decision, but that flag will stay tucked down by my side until my mate points left or right. And that's not how it should be. Have a bit of initiative, have a bit of belief in yourself, a bit of confidence in your professional ability to make the correct decision. Don't just wait and be the referee's little lapdog, just because it's easier to let the referee get the stick than you get the stick from the fans on the sideline. If you think it's a certain decision and you're closer to it, you should have that input. And Cox is right in chat. Linesmen in the Championship, assistant referees, for the most part, utterly useless. That's nothing against any of them as people, but that's a collective professional assessment of the situation of refereeing and the standard of refereeing and officiating at the level at which my team plays football.
One thing we need to do is we need to try and we'll probably task you with this, Joe, because why not? We maybe need to try and get some referee assessor to come and talk to us on Tiger Talk and see if we can, find out what the, coaching is, why the standard as we see it is so bad. They'd probably see it differently to us. And is there a lack of, qualified referees coming through that are at the right level to be able to work in the Championship, League One, League Two, or the Premier League as it is? So, that's something we'll try for, and we'll see if we can get here on Tiger Talk. Joe's got a note, and he's got quite a few contacts as Joe, so I'm sure, if he uses them well, we might get somewhere with it, and it might be a future episode here on Tiger Talk. We've got just about 4 minutes left on the show. We're going to do something a little bit different on next week's show. I'm not looking forward to this because it's going to involve me having to do quite a lot of work, and I don't like doing work.
Same, AD, don't worry, it's not just you, mate. It's not just you.
So, what I might do is I might look over Chris's shoulder when he's doing it and just pick a few names off there. Joe, it's your baby this, so tell everybody what's happening next week.
So we have another international break special coming for you guys.
I didn't mind the last one; it was a bit easier.
Well, at Christmas we did a rank the signings, which was a good laugh.
We did, yeah, it was a good laugh.
Before that, in what international break would it have been that we did it in? I think it was
so many, Joe. Don't worry about it.
I think it was the October international break. We picked our best 11 that we've ever seen play for Hull City in each of our respective times watching the club. So mine is starting quite recently in terms of the grand scheme of time. Chris is a bit before me, AD a bit before Chris, and then Paul a bit before AD.
Oh, God, that's saying you're ancient, Paul, isn't it?
Yes, isn't it?
What he's saying.
Everybody might think I'm the youngest here. You just shot me down there, Joe.
Oh, I'm gutted, Paul. If you want, I'm not going to say that because that'll come out totally opposite to the way I intend it. Let's move on.
Move on.
So
it can take a joke usually. It's all right.
I'm having a bit of fun.
I know, but instead of the best 11 this time with the same parameters, we're going to do the inverse, the worst 11. The caveat is you have to have seen them play. So Uriel Felly cannot be in anybody's squad. Just to chuck that little bit.
We have been to City for a couple of games. Sinnott can't be in anybody's squad.
What about if you've watched Uriel Felly on YouTube?
Oh. It's AI generated, AD. I hate to break it to you.
Have you seen Cynic in Hull Royal?
That's it. Yeah.
Hey, he's playing a behind closed doors friendly next week. What if he breaks his glasses when he's getting changed or something like that? He might be out for the rest of his contract. Such a shame.
Well, that's
anyway,
disgraceful.
He's only got about 3 months left on it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moving on, because losing Cynic would not be a loss at all because he's permanently injured, so it makes no difference. We're going to do we're going to do that next week. Hull City Hall of Shame 11s this time. 1 to 11, manager as well. Get the Wikipedia out with them squad lists, guys.
Yeah. I did say there's a lot of work involved in this. I'm going to have to do loads of squads, and it'll probably have to
create a short list if you would like any help from the last.
Do you know what? That'll be done, Joe, about 6:30 next Wednesday night.
It'll be done at 7 o'clock when I'm listening to you three.
It'll be a good list, people. That's all I can say to you. It's going to be a good list. Anyway, it's been a good show tonight. I think we've got on quite well. We talked a bit about the game. We talked a bit about refereeing. Talked a bit about signings. A bit about the under-21s. A bit about the under-18s. Been a good show. We're back next week from 7 o'clock here on Humber Wave Radio and to Hull and Back podcast. I've been Eddie Wright. I've been Joe Collins.
I've been Paul Wright.
And I've been Chris Sorensen.
I will see you next week from 7 o'clock.
Goodbye.
Cheers, all.